Well, great Sunday morning to you folks. Thanks for tuning in to The Law Show, brought to you by the firm of Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. I'm Randy Thompson. I'm at the end of the list, but I'm glad you've tuned in to watch us this morning. Our law firm has been around in Pensacola, Fort Walton, Crestview, Panama City, Port St. Joe, for a very long time. I've been a member of this law firm for, I guess, more than 26 years now. And the only thing we concentrate on is injuries caused to our clients by the fault of someone else. We don't handle criminal cases. We don't handle domestic divorce, child custody. We don't handle wills and probates. We don't handle real estate property. And so a lot of folks call us or text us after this show asking questions that we simply have chosen over the years not to concentrate on. So a lot of times when your text or phone calls involve issues that we don't get involved in, we either refer you to another lawyer or another law firm that we have confidence in, or we simply tell you that's not what we do. We're sorry, we can't help you. We get a lot of phone calls on a regular basis from people who are wanting to switch law firms. They're with some of these bigger than better law firms, or bigger is better, I think is their commercial, or size matters. We get a lot of phone calls from clients who are currently with other law firms saying, I can't get a return phone call. I can't find out what's going on with my case. Can you please give me a second opinion? Can you tell me what my case is worth? So the first thing I want to say this morning is that when we receive those phone calls, we always tell the caller, it is best if you can stay with the firm that you are currently with, assuming they're qualified, assuming they know what they're doing, assuming they focus on the type of claim you have. It's always best that you stay with that law firm because the process has already been started. And if you switch law firms in midstream, it doesn't cost you any more money. It doesn't cost you any additional expense, but it does cost you time because your new law firm has to get up to speed and may want to go back and undo certain things that the other law firm has already done. And that can be difficult. So what I always say when I receive the first phone call from a person who's been injured through the fault of someone else, and they say, well, I'm with such and such law firm, but I can't get a return phone call. Or I've been with this law firm for a year now, and they haven't made any progress. Can I get a second opinion? What I always say is schedule a meeting with the lawyer who is assigned to your case. During COVID times, it was, and Zoom is fine. It doesn't have to be in person, but I'd like to see your face. I want the attorney to see your face, and then talk to that lawyer about what your concerns are. Explain to the lawyer, look, I fell in this door a year ago. Y'all agreed to represent me. Every time I call you, there's a new lawyer on my file and they don't know what's going on. I want to sit down and talk to you about what's going on with my file, what's happening with my file, what are your intentions to do with my file, and how do I proceed? And then, if you and your current attorney don't agree and don't see eye to eye on that concept, then I'll be glad to give you a second opinion. But here's the issue about a second opinion. It is impossible for any lawyer, and I don't care what they tell you, it is impossible for any lawyer to give you the value of your case unless he or she knows all the facts of your case. Because here's what determines the value of a personal injury case. First of all, liability. Who caused the accident? How did the accident happen? Who is the at-fault party and how are they responding? So let me give you an example. Somebody walks into a store and the entry mat that you walk in through the door is crumpled up or rolled up or folded up, and you trip over that rug and you fall and injure yourself. All right, so what's the value of that claim? Well, it depends a lot on the aspect of what did the store know about that rug. I had a case where as soon as my client fell, the clerk in the store said, "We have been complaining about that mat for months now. They won't fix it." The value of your case goes up. If the clerk, on the other hand, would have said, "Oh my gosh, that's never happened. How in the world did that happen? What happened there?" Or if the videotape of the store at the front door shows that somebody 30 seconds before you came in stubbed their toe on it and caused the rug to be tripped up, the value of your claim is completely different. And without knowing all of those facts and without knowing all of that information, it is impossible for a lawyer to tell you what the value of the claim is. The next thing that affects the value of your claim is the nature of the injury. If you fell over that rug and stood up and brushed yourself off and didn't go to a doctor for 6 months, but 6 months later you decided that, man, my shoulder is still bothering me, it's still hurting, that's one value of the claim. If an ambulance had to come and carry you away and immediately at the emergency room they found that you broke your hip or broke your shoulder or broke your arm, that's a completely different value of the claim. Well, what if it's just, well, I tripped and fell and I hurt my back and I've continued to see my doctor and my back continues to hurt? Well, the truth is the value of that claim depends on who you were before the fall. Did you have ongoing regular visits with a doctor or a chiropractor because you had occasional low back pain? And I don't mean to be rude about this, but are you significantly overweight and your low back pain has constantly been a problem for you? All of those factors, all of that information, your prior medical records have a great deal to do with what ultimately 6 people on a jury think your case is worth. Because ultimately, if the lawyer and the insurance company can't get to a settlement, can't reach a number that your lawyer and you think is fair and that the insurance company is willing to pay, ultimately you have to go to a jury trial. And when those 6 people are sitting on a jury, the example I've been using is a trip over a rug. The store's lawyer will be very talented, very qualified, very polite, normally speaking. And that lawyer for the store will say something like, folks, the only reason we admit that the rug shouldn't have been tripped up like that. We admit that we had a rug problem in the past. We were trying to get it solved. So we acknowledge that the fall is our fault. That's not why we're here in this courtroom. We're here in this courtroom because we can't agree on what the fair compensation for this injury is. And so the lawyer for the store will talk about your medical records for 10 years before the accident. And if they find ongoing, continued low back complaints and difficulty that you've had with your low back, then they're going to talk about that. And they're going to say, we didn't cause the low back pain. We may have aggravated it. We may have caused an inflammation of it. We may have caused a temporary exacerbation of it. But we didn't cause this ongoing long-term back pain problem. And so, as your lawyer, it's my obligation to know all about your prior medical records, and it's your obligation to be honest and to testify truthfully about who you were before the fall, because if 6 people on a jury hear you say, no, I've never had any back pain before, but then they see medical records going back 5 years, 10 years, 4 years, 2 years that show this person has back pain and back pain, all of a sudden, the jury believes that you're not being honest. The jury thinks that you're not being truthful. The jury thinks, wait a minute now, something's going on wrong here. Our job as lawyers is to protect you, to make sure that you get fair compensation. Well, what defines fair? Ultimately, what 6 people on a jury are going to say about that. Is there a crystal ball that we can look through and say, well, the jury is going to give this amount of money, period, end of story? Of course not. Of course there's not. But we can look at, it's almost like a chess match. It's almost like, well, wait a minute. If we say there's no injuries and they show there's injuries, the game's over. So that's a little bit of insight about how you determine the value of your claim, how you come up with, how lawyers come up with, what is the fair compensation. But it requires an attorney paying attention to your records, paying attention to what you have said, paying attention to all of the facts of the case. So we're going to go to a brief commercial break and we'll be back. But this is Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. I am Randy Thompson. I am a board certified civil trial attorney. We'll be back.